Welcome into Life Stories, lessons learned from living we want our loved ones to remember. And with us, as always, Citizen Mike, and just talking about that. These are life's lessons that we're talking about, and we want to remember those, and that's why we're recording this for prosperity.
I met Blythe at the Cancer Center of Kishwaukee Hospital. He's 86 years old. He's a law professor emeritus, so retired law professor at Northern Illinois University.
We're talking about the fact that you were diagnosed with colon cancer. I wonder if you could tell us how difficult that was that day and what your immediate reaction was when you were diagnosed with that.
Absolutely. First of all, before I had the diagnosis, I thought I was dying. I was down in Springfield, and I couldn't walk, and I couldn't see anything to speak of. And then I had to stay in a motel for a while, and then came back here to DeKalb and had a diagnosis of colon cancer. And the doctor said, if you don't have this operation, you will drown in your own shit.
Oh, okay.
And so I had the operation. And then then somebody said, well, we're taking care of the colon, but you also have got liver cancer, and you've got to have some chemotherapy for that, which is what I am doing now.
Okay.
And do I find it a bit tiresome? Yes, I do. But this is not my favorite activity. I'm going to keep on doing it. So far as death is concerned, death happens. Death happens to everybody. And when I was a child, I wasn't very happy, and I was delighted to hear that I could die.
Right, so that was a good thing when you heard that.
Correct. And now at 86, why, I am equally delighted that I can die.
Let's stay when you was a child. Now, when you were told that, what was death? What did you think that experience was going to be like?
I think I read it someplace. It wasn't somebody who told me. No, I was miserable as a kid. I hated my parents for having had me. And when I learned, in a book I think somewhere, that I could die, I wasn't stuck in the world forever. Well, I said, oh, thank goodness. So that was my reaction.
And here you are 80 years later, and you've never once been worried about dying, if I can make that statement.
I haven't been worried. No, that's right. It isn't that I haven't thought about it.
Okay.
Of course I thought about it. You'd be idiot enough to think of it. But life, death is the terminal point of life. And I'm interested in concepts, and that's a concept. And everybody thinks about it in one way or another, but I am still pleased that I can die.
I guess I should rephrase that. You do not fear death. Would that be a proper statement to make?
That is absolutely correct. No, I feel nothing like that at all.
Part of what I'm hearing you say, Blythe, is that there is comfort in understanding that the suffering in life ends. And I think that's particularly important. Also in this particular case, because what I'm hearing you say actually is that that by the time you were diagnosed, you had symptoms. And this is something we're learning on this journey with cancer, is that by the time you have the symptoms for cancer, it actually has spread out of one organ is in several organs, or more than one. And I think Blythe is telling us that it was in his liver when they found it, and that drowning in your own feces is actually a fairly literal description of what happens as the body adjusts to this type of cancer. So it actually is descriptive, and hopefully what we'll do is have some medical professionals on the show so that they can actually verify that and describe that for us. But I think it's important for our audience to know that here's a man who had no symptoms, and when he did have symptoms at 86 years old, the symptoms were full-blown, and that's part of the reason we want to do screening. But that's not for this show. Let you keep going instead of talking.
Well, Blythe, let me ask you about that now. When we talk about when you were diagnosed, a lot of people say it changed their lives. In other words, you lived your life differently that very next day. Did that change how you lived your life? I'm going to do this now instead of this. Did it really alter your plans?
It changed one thing. I decided that I would go in with this cancer treatment, and that has been very time consuming. Mm-hmm. I don't like that much, but I've decided to do it, and that is a change. So I
Tell us about that decision. Why did you, because you could choose not to, but why, particularly at 86, why would you go through the rigors of chemotherapy instead of whatever other alternatives? So tell us how you got to that decision and why.
I hope it won't sound flippant or anything, but I will almost say for the hell of it.
Okay, very good. And then why? Tell us why. You almost said that.
I mean, what am I going to do, man? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do nothing. And I am a professor emeritus. I am probably not going to teach anymore. Why not? It's something to do.
Mm-hmm. I love that reaction. I'm in studio, thumbs up, saying, what a great reaction. It reminds me of the story, Tuesdays with Maury, of a professor who died, I believe, of ALS. Yeah. And what a courageous way to approach this. You've done other things in life. You are a retired professor, and it's almost like saying, instead of why me, it's like saying, why not me? And okay, bring it on, and let's find out what this is like.
Correct.
Awesome.
I think so. I must say, I read Tuesdays with Marty, and I must say that is a miserable way to go. He went by little bit, by little bit, by little bit. I want to just go bammo.
So you would do that? You would?
Yeah.
If push came to shove, would you actually take your own life?
Sure. And
you say that not even having to think about that?
Yep. No, I don't think about it. It's a fact. That's all.
And being a lawyer, if I may ask you, what about the moral dilemma of doing that? I mean, it's essentially against the law, right? I mean, to take your own life.
Sue me.
Okay.
Touche!
That's really good. I like that. Now, when we talk about your mindset and how you've lived your life, how have you conveyed that to your students? Do you delve into that with your classes, or do you just strictly by the book, or do you get into life's lessons in your classes?
I have gotten into life lessons from time to time. I haven't sort of given lectures on committed suicide, no. But if somebody asked me, is that what you might consider doing? I'd say, sure. Why not?
So help us get into that mindset. Help us understand the rationale and the thought process that goes with that. And part of where I'm coming from on that, we have done suicide prevention shows. And in interviewing folks, it is fascinating for me to be able to see differences in perspective actually based on age. That by the time a person is 60, 70, 80 years old, they have a different perspective than a person who is 22 or younger. And so help us understand, how did you get to that particular mindset, and what's involved with the mindset about saying, hey, you're on your perspective of taking the final act into your hands. Help us understand that.
Sure. For one thing, there hasn't been any great change in my attitude over the decades. I have never seen that the law has any right whatever to tell me what I can do with my life. I don't see that. Now, others do, especially moralists do. People who sort of pound the pavement and say, well, this is against God or something like that. I see nothing like that in it at all. I have not changed my attitude. Really, not at all.
And in terms of what you tell your students or have told your students, do you do essentially, live for today, live for the moment, or what? How would you encapsulate your mindset?
When I'm teaching a course in international business law, I don't bring up suicide too very much. I think you can understand that.
No.
Bad for business.
But it definitely is bad for business. But my door was always open to students, always happy to see them. And my phone number, my home phone number, they're always welcome to. And so we did indeed chat about things, including that, certainly. I think it is we have freedom of speech here, I guess. I feel free to talk about it as I wish.
And sorry, go ahead, Mike. Well, I was going to say, because you've met people like Mike and other people that are battling the same battle that you are. What has that been like for you? And what kind of conversations have you had with those folks?
Yeah. Well, I live on Twombly Road, and I met a Mr. Bob Twombly, after whom Twombly wrote his name.
Okay.
And he was in the same cancer or whatnot as I was. And we just talked. We invited him over for dinner. And he had a nice wife named Barbara. And we didn't talk about suicide. We talked about his farm.
Okay.
Actually. We just talked.
But I think for some of us...
no life philosophy. We didn't do much life philosophy.
No?
With Bob Twombly. With Natalie, absolutely. Awful.
Okay.
In fact, including this morning.
Oh, very good. All right.
And with my wife, Judy, we talk about it, not so much because it might distress her.
Well, what do you want from your loved one? What do you want your loved ones to do when you're going through this battle? Do you want them to, again, to be supportive? Do you want them to, to begin to mourn you? Or what do you want them to do?
Good question. I want them to simply carry on with their lives. I literally mean that exactly. I don't want them to sort of sit around and grieve, nor do I want them to jump up and down and say, hooray, he's gone.
Okay.
I don't want them to have any particular response to my dying. We all die. I was told over in the cancer center that I was given a range between 6 months and 5 years. So, yuck. So, I've been around a long time. I can't say I've been cut off in my prime, even if I had, so what? But here I am, and I have got 6 months to 5 years, maybe longer, maybe less. Maybe I'll drop dead today.
See, for me, that's incredible that you make a statement like that, because to me, I think there would be such a sense of urgency that I have to get this done. I promised myself I would do this. And how do you deal with those thoughts?
I haven't quit doing things. I don't just sort of lie down and do nothing. Reading is my favorite activity today. And with the chemotherapy, I have a certain weakness. If you had it, you would see what I mean. And so I can't sort of run around the block. I take some exercise with my wife from time to time. And I don't eat a lot. And I talk with her a lot. I talk with friends. I've got a friend who is an auto mechanic, and I talk with him a lot because I'm interested in that. And what else?
So you never stop learning. You still
no.
And it sounds like you're also saying you don't stop living. So, yes, you and Bob Twombly are diagnosed, as I am, with cancer. And prayerfully, I'm just doing chemotherapy as opposed to having to deal with stage 4. But the point is you go on living, and you go on doing the things that you enjoy doing, and that's what you want other people to do around you. At least that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I think that's a reasonable interpretation. I think it is an accurate interpretation. No, I could not see. If I can't think, if I can't use my mind, I want to be dead now. Sorry.
Okay.
Living, using your mind, is where it is, as far as I'm concerned.
But as your body begins to fail you, would an active mind, would that be enough for you, if you would? Would that be enough for you to want to stick around? And again, I know it's a very difficult question.
No, it's not a difficult question. I'm trying to think of a good way to answer it, that's all. If I couldn't use my mind at all, I would have to say I wish I'd be dead. Yes, because I would be then surplusage here, and to the extent that I could feel anything, I would certainly be suffering.
Well, here's the thing.
Yep.
The way I understand this is before you were diagnosed with cancer, you experienced the notion of death, the final act, as a relief. Yes. And you wanted, as many people say, they would rather go quickly rather than to suffer.
Correct.
Flip side of the coin, though, is now you, for the hell of it, have experienced the cancer diagnosis and the treatment, and you're going through that. How has that shaped your perspective about that issue, meaning living with a body that is deteriorating? Has it remained the same? Has it changed? If it has changed, how's it changed?
Would you repeat that? I got lost.
I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not a trained professional like TD is.
Why are you not?
No. has your perspective about death and living the quality of life changed with the cancer diagnosis?
Not fundamentally, no.
Okay, so would you say not at all? I understand not fundamentally. Has it changed at all? Because for me, part of the thing before, it was an academic issue. If you weren't sick and you weren't diagnosed with cancer, we can say, hey, yeah, I want to go quickly. Okay, now you're faced with a disease that basically destroys your body.
It kills you.
Kills you. It kills you. But it doesn't kill you as slow as ALS does, but it will kill you faster than other diseases. So you're faced with a disease that will cause your body to deteriorate.
Correct.
So it would seem to me that there might have been some type of influence on thinking about it academically and then now actually living it. And maybe there isn't.
What question do you want me to answer?
Whatever question you feel like answering. In fact, don't answer the question at all. Say what you want to say. Because that's really what's most important, is for people to hear your story and your perspective.
Well, so I gather, has the advent of this cancer changed my attitude toward death? Would that be a reasonable?
That's a reasonable,
sort of thing to pick out here. Not really. There's a certain realism there.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my wife about it, and I said, well, here it is. I may be around for a while, but maybe not for a while. I don't know. But it's interesting to be faced with it.
So tell us about...
Is it frightening? Am I sorry? No.
You're not?
No, not at all.
Tell us about the realism. I mean, I think that's a great response. So part of what you're saying is now it's real. Now you've got to live with it. And you talk, so one of the things that's different is you talk to your wife about it. How else have you confronted or do you experience the realism?
I confront realism as I confront most other things in talking with people. This is my main outlet, you might say.
Okay.
And I would say that my attitude towards death really hasn't changed significantly. It has not. You can ask me that over and over again. I think that that
evidenced by this show, because I've asked 3 times and you've said the same thing. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, listen, we only have about a minute left, and I just want to ask you about your life philosophy and the legacy that you want to live. What do you want people to remember you as, and what thoughts would you want associated with yourself?
Legacy. That's an interesting thought. Well,
have you thought about it? You have journals and publications that you want others to read after you're gone?
Not particularly. I wish my brother Bill very well, and he's a cardiologist, younger than me by a bit, and I'm very fond of it. I have other relatives. Most of all, I have my wife, Judy.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I wish to leave to them? I think a peaceful memory of me as not too bad a guy, I hope. And maybe that I have a little bit of loving in me.
And the way you've lived your life, your philosophy, do you think others should adopt that? Or everyone should adopt their own little perspective on things?
Well, everybody will adopt his or her own. But I think mine's not a bad example.
No, you're not at all. Listen, we appreciate your time this morning. It's been fascinating talking to you today. Again, we've been visiting with Blythe. I'm practicing saying that.
Not Blythe.
Blythe
Stason.
Blythe Stason. We appreciate so much your time this morning, Blythe. And take care of yourself, and we'll hope to visit with you again real soon.
I look forward to it, and thank you for the invitation. And thank you, Michael, for making it all possible.
It's great to be on the journey with you guys. I'm just happy. I'm ecstatic about that.
And that's our life story for today.